Hi, I'm Marvin D'Souza. I'm an SU with Cisco. In this video, we're going to look at Cisco ISE Easy Connect. ISE has primarily leveraged the 802.1x authentication protocol for all wired access and wireless access. In this video, we're going to focus primarily on wired access through a switch. What we're going to see is a user that is plugged into a switch authenticates using Active Directory. That Active Directory authentication is then read by ISE, which then does a combination of MAC address to username authentication, and then does a change of authorization on the switch, and provides other information like SGT tracking and DACl, etc. to the user interface. Why is this significant? This is significant because it's a lot easier to use. Yes, granted, it's not as secure as 802.1x, but it's a lot more secure than having no wired authentication on your network, and it's very automated. What that means is as soon as someone authenticates to your network, they're provided with an SGT, security group tag. That security group tag can then be attached to them or sent to other devices to provide a unified security policy across your architecture. So let's get started with a demo. So this is my ISE box here, and when I log in, I'm going to look at my policy sets, and I've got this Easy Connect policy, which is a name for the ISE Easy Connect. And I've got 3 current policies, and what these policies show me is the conditions that have to be matched. So this is just the name of the policy, the conditions that have to be matched for a user to apply to this policy. And these are just like access lists. So if a user logs in, it's checked against policy from top down. If no matches, then the user is given guest access. If a user matches at this policy level, it is then given the permission of DB users, that's SGT of DB users, and given the authorization profile of DB users -1. I'll go into more details on this later. One key thing I wanted to show you is in ISE 2.1, under Administration tab, go to the Passive ID at Active Domain Controllers. When you connect to your domain controller, you should see this Connected tab. If you see the Connected tab, and if you go to Radius Live Logs, under Live Logs, you should see authentication information from your Active Directory controller to your ISE box. So this is my Active Directory user logged in, and as you can see that it's showing you that information. So earlier I mentioned the combination of a MAC address and a username, and here you can see an example of that. But let's just look at a live example. Let's log in using a Windows box as a user. Pull up a box here. So now let me pull up a switch as well, so you can actually see how these two things work in combination. So show my switch list. So now I previously logged onto this box as a contractor, so as you can see, I automatically had a DACl contractors dynamic access list downloaded to this switch. I'm going to log back in here as a database user, and what I should see is a change of authorization pushed from ISE to the switch. So what that means is the switch will then de-authenticate the port and then provide the actual authentication required. So let me log in as a DB user. I'm going to log in. Once I log in, I should see activity on my switch. ISE will now take that information and then say, okay, this switch needs to provide access based on the user that authenticated to this workstation. and the user, the DB user, so provide them access based as the database user. So show access list. And now I see my access list has changed where it was originally contractors here. Now it's changed to DB users. We could try that again. Oh, and let me show you on the live logs as well. So if I go to live logs, you'll see I have a DB user policy got affected, DB users. It's tracking my IP address of my Windows box as well. This is key, the Windows IP address. Let me show you that. So just to confirm. This is very important because if the IP address and the username are correctly authenticated, and then I get a authorization profile which puts me in the DB users SGT group, that information will then be passed on to everyone, every device that works with a security exchange protocol. So if I look at all SXP mappings, I see the IP address of my workstation and the SGT tag that was automatically assigned to it. It was learned from my switch. That's the IP address of my switch, and this is the IP address of ISE. So basically what's going to happen is now ISE will forward this information to any device participating in my SXP domain, Security Group Tag Exchange Protocol domain. Let's do another test, and then I'll create a new user on my Active Directory, and we can go to that from scratch. So let's just go one more time. I'll delete, sign out, and we log in as employee. So I'll log in as employee. I should see the same thing. Let's switch over real quick. So DB users was here. As soon as I logged in, you can see the radius change of authorization taking place. It's telling me that authorization succeeded. Change of authorization has taken place. If I look at my access list now, I should see that it's changed to employees based on my user login information. So if I look at this here, this SGT tag, and I double click this again, it's automatically changed to employees. Same IP address, different SGT. This is very vital, so if different people plug into the same port, let's say in a conference room, it doesn't matter. They'll get different permissions based on who they are. So that's the dynamic part of the SDN part of ISE and integrating with other Cisco products. Let's create a new user, and then we'll create a new policy for that user so you can see the whole process taking place. So, this is my Active Directory controller. And I'm going to create a new group and a new user as well. So add tasks. New group. Call this marketing. Okay. Create a new user. KTG1. KTG1. And I'll put a password Cisco 123. Password expires. Finish. Now let me add this user. This user to the marketing group. There it is. So added the user to the marketing group. So now I can close out of my Active Directory controller. Let me go now into. So let me create a new a new security group now called marketing. actually propagate all these automatically. Now let's go ahead and create some conditions. So the way ISE works with policy sets, let me go to policy sets and show you that real quick. So within policy sets, you have the conditions that have to be met for a user to be identified, and then the permissions that that user will get. So it's a very logical progression. So you've got a rule name, the conditions that have to be met for that user to be identified as that particular user within this group. He meets the criteria for this permission policy set, and if he does meet the permission policy set, provided these permissions. So you got to create the conditions and then the permissions. Let's go to policy conditions. You're going to create a compound condition here. And we'll call this marketing. We'll create a new condition. Since this is called passive ID authentication, which we saw over here, right? So that's passive ID. So we're using that same passive ID authentication here. And here I'm going to use, I got to import the groups. Let me import the groups and cancel out here. Go to administration. So sources. If you got to import that marketing group, I just created it, so I didn't get a chance to add it. So let's retrieve groups. There it is. Okay. So now marketing should be available when I go back into my policy conditions. Go to my authorization, compound conditions. Add create a new condition. So attribute passive ID. Yes, passive ID groups equals. And go from marketing there. So we got, highlight this so you can see it. So we got the 81 security demo users marketing group, and if it's using passive identity authentication, which we saw here, which is the whole Easy Connect engine here. Then click submit. Okay, so now we've created that. Now let's create the results. So let's see our results. So we got authorization profiles and DACl. Let's create a DACl first. Let's call this one add. Okay, DACl. Then I'll call it, just give it permit ID since this is a lab. What's nice is in with Cisco ISE, I've got this check DACl, and it just tells me the DACl is valid. If there was a problem with it, if I typoed something, it would tell me the DACl is not valid. This way you don't have to start troubleshooting on your switch or whatever. This really helps out. Go to authorization profiles. Here I'll create another authorization profile. I'll call this one marketing profile. File. DACl name. Let's use the marketing one. I just created marketing DACl. I could also add a VLAN or any other information I wanted here, but we're not going to do that right now. Just leave that simple and create submit. Once that's done, I go in policy sets. Go Easy Connect. Now I'm going to add this one right below contractors. So insert rule below. I'll call this one marketing. Condition. Select existing condition from the library. Compound condition. You should see at the bottom there, marketing. So we've got the passive ID and one we created. Let's add the profiles. So I go security group. So what I'm going to say is, if the user logs in and they match this rule, provide them with the marketing SGT and give them the authorization profile of marketing as well. It's a marketing profile. Click done. Hit save. And that's pretty much it. That's all I have to do. Now let's test that. So let's go back in here. Let's log out. Sign out here. Other user. KTG1. 723. Pull up my switch. And you should see the authentication radius checks. And see, it's the first time I'm logging in. It says we're setting up things for you, but on my switch, more importantly, I'm seeing the radius change of authorization taking place. And if I do show access list here, I should see the marketing DACl, the one we just created, added here. If I go up into, my SXP, look at my SXP mappings, it's in the marketing group. And same IP address. So there you have it. Cisco ISE Easy Connect really makes deploying ISE very simple, very easy, and hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. Thanks.